Hi, Rob here. Welcome to the IELTS writing course. This lesson is one of the most important, I think, in the whole English language journey because so many mistakes are made because people don't understand what I'm about to tell you. So I think this should be the first lesson when you learn English, which is what is a sentence in English. The second lesson should be about verbs. So we're going to talk about this. It's about syntax. So it's about how to form sentences and form the correct use of the vocabulary. So it's very important. Why are we doing this? We want to reduce errors. A lot of errors come from this mistake. For example, in many languages it's okay to say like. For example, do you like coffee? In some languages you can say like. Or you can say, yes, I like. But in English you can't say that. You mustn't, because you're missing an object. It. Do you like coffee? Yeah, I like it. Well, yes, I do. That's fine. But with a verb like, you must have an object. So the reason for that is that English is different to many other languages. It's what we call an information language. So you need to give more information. The reason for us needing the object is fundamental. And you have the same concept in all languages, the same idea in all languages, but in English it seems to apply to more types of verb. So we need to fix this error early. Also, we need you to be able to make complex sentences and complex structures, which means you need to understand what type of verb you are using, because that can affect everything else. So if you don't get this basic idea right, it creates problems for a long time. Also connected to this is the use of prepositions. So if I ask a group of students, high-level students, what's the most difficult thing in English? They say prepositions. Actually what they mean is, or what they don't understand, is verbs. If you understand the verbs and prepositions, then you understand prepositions. So this is a big one. There are different types of verbs. We've got transitive verbs, intransitive, ditransitive, link or copular verbs, and ergative verbs. Do you know what they are? Can you define them? So some people don't like learning all of this, what we call meta language, the language we need to talk about language. But actually it helps us a lot. It helps us to understand sentences and words and how things are connected. So can you define these? Do you know what these are? If not, I'd suggest that you look them up now. Translate them into your language. So while on the one hand we don't recommend translating language in your head all the time, it is important to translate the concepts, the ideas, the words that talk about the language, because that will help you to understand the bigger picture. So do that if you can. Pause the video and do that, okay? So transitive verb. A transitive verb takes a direct object and cannot stand alone. So you can't say, I like, I enjoy. You can't say that. If you look in a dictionary, and you need a dictionary, you need a good advanced learner's dictionary. That's a dictionary designed for you, not for me. I don't need this information because I naturally know it through lots of exposure to the language, so through listening to it a lot and seeing it a lot. In a dictionary, a transitive verb could be marked VN, which means verb noun, T for transitive, or VT for verb transitive. So we can't say I love, as many learners do. You love what? We need a direct object. For example, I love it, I love you, I love them. whatever it is. As you can see here, we have a handout with lots of transitive and intransitive verbs on to help you. So transitive verbs, verb, object, okay? Then we've got intransitive verbs. An intransitive verb has no object. For example, she arrived. That's a complete sentence. Remember, a complete sentence is a subject and a finite verb. So, subject verb, I ran. What did you do last night? I slept. I ran. So these are fine. Or, if we want to add an object to that, we're going to add a preposition plus an object. So here it says, I arrived at the party. I ran to the park. She arrived at the office. So again, some of these are on the handout. That should say intransitive there, just here. And in a dictionary, it's going to be VI for intransitive, or V, prep, N, verb, preposition, noun. Okay? So this is the connection with prepositions. You must understand that a verb is connected to the preposition. Or the preposition is connected to the verb, really. And that means that when you learn a new word, a verb, you need to ask yourself, what else do I need with this verb? Do I need a preposition or not? And that simple question you should ask every time you learn a new verb. What is this verb? Is it transitive or intransitive? Transitive. Okay, so I explained the point. Good. Or intransitive, I arrived. Arrived at the party? No, arrived at the party. Okay, so the preposition is important. The preposition can change the meaning of the word. For example, I ate at the restaurant. I ate with my wife. So to eat at a place, to eat with someone. You see? So everything changes when we change the preposition. It can do. Some verbs are both transitive and intransitive. So the meaning changes when the transitivity changes. For example, I ate the curry versus I ate with her. Okay? So some are both. Then we've got ditransitive. The ditransitive verb takes a direct and an indirect object. So two objects. In a dictionary, it's going to be marked VNN. For example, I asked her the question. Now, some people put it the other way around. If you put the indirect object first, I asked the question, and now to her. I asked the question to her. I asked her the question. Same meaning. But in English, we're going to put direct object first and indirect object, even though the other way is possible. I explained her the idea. I explained the idea to her. Some common ditransitive verbs. Give. I gave her some flowers. I asked her the question. I told her the story. I took him the pillow. I read him the story. I wrote her a letter. Okay? So sometimes two objects. Then we've got link verbs. Now, link verbs are not followed by an object, but a complement. Remember, a complement gives more information about the subject. It defines it in some ways. In a dictionary, they're usually marked link or copula, but usually link. A complement can be a noun, an adjective, or an adverbial. For example, I am a man, noun. I am happy, adjective. I am in the classroom, preposition plus a noun. Preposition plus a noun is an adverbial. So, a preposition is always followed by a noun. Preposition noun is a phrase, a part of language that you should notice. So in the other grammar lessons, we've talked about putting brackets around dependent clauses or subordinate clauses. We could do the same for phrases, prepositional phrases. In fact, in the grammar sentence types part 1 lesson, if you remember, there's a very long sentence with lots of prepositional phrases. And we could do that. But so to understand sentences, we can take them out. And what we are left with is the subject and the verb. This is a lot of information. I hope you're following. Some common link verbs. So these can be followed by adjectives. Look, this is all the senses, to be and become, but to look, sound, taste, there are more. But so I am happy. I became a man. Kind of true, not physically, but I've always been a man physically, but being a man is about behaviour as well. I became a man. You seem happy. You look happy. You sound happy. It tastes wonderful. Okay, so different to transitive and intransitive. So we need to know this when we do the passive voice. The passive voice is part of complex structures, and you can't use intransitive verbs in the passive. You can't say the accident was happened, because happen is an intransitive verb. It happened. It happened to me. It happened to her. Also, when we're learning relative clauses, because we can move this dependent preposition to the front of the relative clause. The man to whom I listened was rather motivational. So with an intransitive verb such as listen, we can move this dependent preposition to the front of the clause. To be honest, if you feel comfortable doing that, do it, but it's a risky thing to do. And really this idea is important because it shows us that the brain thinks in clauses and phrases the same way it does in your language. So the brain likes these chunks of language, and this is what we are trying to do, is show you the pieces of language and how they go together. Because how can your language brain know to put the to at the front? Well, the answer is because it's already got the chunk ready, so it can move that to the beginning. Plus, we can reduce the relative clause when the antecedent, this noun here, is the object of the clause. In other words, when the verb is transitive, because a transitive verb has an object. So telephoned, I telephoned. This is both transitive and intransitive, but we can telephone someone. So the man who I telephoned was a bit odd. So you see, who did you phone? I telephoned the man. I telephoned the man, full stop. The man was a bit odd. Odd means strange. We've connected these two sentences, and we can do that with transitive verbs especially. Okay, so learn these verbs to avoid mistakes, to not make mistakes. Also, when we get to a higher level, to the passive and relative clauses, you need to understand this concept. It's not an option for you. When we learn noun clauses, again, these are complex sentences. The idea of transitivity, the concept, is very important. So a noun clause can be a subject, an object, which is the direct object of a transitive verb, an object of a preposition, which is the indirect object of an intransitive verb, adjective complement, noun complement. So in these two here, especially, look, number 2 and 3, you must know if it's an intransitive or transitive verb. For example, I understand how much you love syntax. I know that you love studying grammar. It's very exciting. It is actually. It's empowering. This knowledge that we're talking about here, this is giving you power. So, power to do well in your writing and get what you want as a result of that. So, an indirect object, I listened to what you had to say. Okay, so there's two noun clauses, direct object, transitive verb, indirect object. Okay, so essential to know. Most importantly, when you know how to do this, when you have the ability to discover and find the new words, the new verbs, you become more independent. And independent learning is what you need to do, not just now, but in your life. You need to be able to learn whatever you need to learn. So, and you need to ask yourself, right, what do I need to do to learn this thing? And then do it. It's not someone else's responsibility, your responsibility. Also, you can start to learn in chunks. So chunks is these pieces that I'm talking about, these phrases and clauses. So when you can do that, again, you become a more efficient, a better learner. Don't just learn single words. It is actually a waste of time, because you might know the word, but you're not going to use it correctly. So what's the point? Okay, maybe you can use it and then fix it. That's fine, but better to learn the right way in the beginning. Okay. Most students, in my experience, have never been taught this, which is, in my head, unbelievable, because it's basic. This is fundamental. So this idea is mentioned in most of the grammar videos at some point, so, and the vocabulary videos. So learn it, think about it, watch this video again if you're not sure, and have a great day. Thank you for watching. Send us any questions. Bye-bye.